All right, well, we're here today with Evan Wilson. He is Assistant Public Defender of PG County, and we're delighted to be here. Evan, you had attended a talk that I had given a couple weeks back on ND-PAE, and we're just here to find out what you thought of that, and if you think that there are any kids in this area, that may have that problem, and what to do about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the work you do here in PG County? Well,
I'm an attorney, a juvenile delinquency attorney, but you would probably call me a criminal defense attorney, but I work primarily with children who've been accused of being involved with acts that would be crimes if they were adults. So I'm representing them in juvenile court here in Prince George's County. So they are standing at the doorway to the delinquency system and are being sort of, in a lot of cases, if they're found to be involved with a delinquent act, then they're being evaluated by the Department of Juvenile Services and by the court in some cases to see what kind of treatment, guidance, or rehabilitation that they need. So in terms of the significance of a serious mental health diagnosis for my clients, that's a very, very important thing. And in terms of being educated, public defenders generally, and certainly public defenders who work with juveniles, need to be educated on the potential mental health illnesses that their clients could be dealing with, because that has a dramatic could have a dramatic impact on the necessary treatment for them. So it's I found the talk to be amazingly relevant to the work that I do and informative, and yeah, I was very happy to hear what you guys had to say, and it kind of, I think as you guys said, it sets off like a light bulb in your head, and you realize you're seeing a lot of these combinations of symptoms and issues.
So when did you first become aware of FASD? Was it when Dr. Rich did the talk, or did you see some symptoms or signs with your clients before that?
Well, I have to say that I was aware of fetal alcohol syndrome, just from my general education. So I was aware of the concept, and I think probably a lot of people are, as like a general concern, there's general awareness I think you probably get from health class, maybe in middle school, that you should not drink alcohol while pregnant, and that could result in something like fetal alcohol syndrome. But in terms of specifically identifying it, I can say that I have not seen in the reports that I've had for my clients, I have not seen that diagnosis much, if ever, which, based on the outline of the symptoms that you guys discussed in your presentation, that's surprising to me, because I do see a lot of these combinations, behavioral oppositional defiant disorder, behavior disorders combined with ADHD, and you start wondering, well, why do we see this consistent combination of diagnoses happening so much? What's the cause of that? And is there perhaps a better approach, a better treatment protocol when you identify those things that the treatment, the Department of Juvenile Services and those crafting the treatment protocol here could be using?
And knowing that those are kind of red flags, those are things that would bring the attention to a child, who may have neurodevelopmental disorder associated with prenatal alcohol exposure. How many kids do you think, looking at sort of the population that you serve, may need to be looked at again for this issue, or just in general moving forward? In Canada, they feel that probably 40 to 60% of juvenile offenders have some degree of this problem. We know that 2 to 6% of school-age children in this country have some degree of this problem. What do you think it's like here in PG County? We're just a bedroom community of Washington, D.C., right? And with the same issues, the inner city kind of problems, social problems.
Well, not being a mental health expert myself, it's hard for me to say for sure, but I mean, I think, as I said, when I listened to your presentation, when we talked about some of the symptoms of this condition, it was like a bell being rung. I think you see a lot of these. So I would not say it's a small percentage of the individuals coming through the juvenile delinquency system that seem to exhibit some of those some of those symptoms. So I think it's, I'm not 100% sure if the Department of Juvenile Services is evaluating for this kind of thing, but I certainly hope they are. And it's something that I will be looking into and utilizing going forward with my clients.
What is the best approach in the criminal justice system here to raise awareness of this problem?
I think that's an interesting question. Obviously, defense attorneys can have a huge role in that. I think we sort of view our job sometimes as educating the court and educating people before the court that this is a complicated situation evaluating a person. When you look at a person, they're more than just one event. Perhaps the one event that brings them into court, and maybe the worst thing they've ever done in their lives. They are a whole person that has a whole life behind them, and obviously with FASD, you're talking about something that happens potentially, well before they're born, and it's going to dramatically affect the rest of their lives, and so it is. I think I look at our job sometimes as just educating on who this person specifically is, what kind of conditions they're struggling with, they're dealing with, and what maybe the court doesn't know or isn't aware of. And I think that that's often our job to educate and to investigate and to show this is what this person is dealing with. This is the challenges that they're dealing with, and particularly in juvenile. That's incredibly important information if you're going to attempt to craft a treatment protocol for these kids.
So I know that one of your colleagues who I had worked with here had been wary to inform judges about this issue, and in fact she was really adamant with me that she was afraid to tell judges much about it because fearing that they would kind of lock up the key, thinking that there's nothing that could be done, whereas I try to promote that, as you said, the right treatments can be helpful and can help their prognosis to prevent recidivism, to prevent them coming back into the system over and over and over again. Do you, I mean, I don't know, I guess this is more of a rhetorical question, but, would you share her same view, or would you say that judges would be an important piece in this puzzle?
I think as a criminal defense attorney or a juvenile delinquency attorney, you're making evaluations on a case-by-case basis. So rather than saying I have a rule that I will always or never do something, I can't say for sure. I will always look on a case-by-case basis as to whether or not this is something that would be beneficial to my client. So, the conversation would very possibly involve asking the client, do you want us to disclose this condition? It's it's something that you're publicizing that's potentially private about that person.
I see.
So it is certainly a case-by-case basis. And could I imagine a situation where a judge takes a look at a condition and says, well, that's just not something we can solve, so maybe I should lock this kid up and throw away the key. You have to look at each situation on a case-by-case basis, but I can certainly imagine a number of cases where bringing this up would be informative and helpful and entirely appropriate to sort of contextualize this person and help the court realize that there is a particular issue that is an explanation and is totally outside the realm of this person's control for some of the behaviors, conditions, symptoms. So I mean, I can certainly imagine cases going forward where I absolutely want to bring it up.
And I remember you saying that the intersection between the children coming from foster care and entering the juvenile justice system, having been a ward of the state already, would be a sort of a place to start looking at this problem. If someone, and I'm not saying we're going to do a study, but I'm just saying if someone wanted to look at a population, wanted to start screening at some level, where would they start looking?
Well, I think you just brought up sort of one of the most concerning situations that arises in juvenile advocacy in general, is the situation where you have a juvenile who is both involved with a dependency matter, that is, they're having issues with at home in terms of getting the proper support from their guardians, and the state has, for some reason, deemed it appropriate, a judge has deemed it appropriate for the state to intervene. The cross between that situation and a delinquency situation where the juvenile is considered to be in need of treatment, guidance, or rehabilitation because of something that they've done, and that is the crossover of, potentially things are unstable at home, and then on top of that, potentially the juvenile behavior is out of control. So I would say that would be a particularly likely place to find issues like FASD. I can't say for sure. It's obviously always it's going to be a case-by-case evaluation, but I would suspect that would be a place that would be very likely to have these kinds of mental illnesses going on.
Sure. Do either of you have any other questions? I know that one thing that we had been talking about ahead of time is, if you do have a, pretty high degree, let's say it is 40% or 60% of children with some degree of ND-PAE or FASD, what would you propose? Because, one idea that several people have talked about is the need for a community to have them live in, so that they don't necessarily get in trouble with the law, and so that they're protected in a safe environment. It's an idea that actually we're starting in Maryland, the idea of a community farm for people with special needs, and particularly with FASD. So where instead of them going out in the streets and having free will and, not being able to take care of themselves and understanding consequences, where they would be able to live and have a vocation and, some freedoms, but obviously it would be a little bit constrained, the same way it is when you go to jail. I mean, they're basically reoffending and then going back to jail. So, from a public defender's point of view, what do you think of that?
Well, from the standpoint of advocating for my individual clients and hoping that they get back into the community and are successful there, obviously if a juvenile needs treatment, it's been deemed that they need treatment, I would hope that it would be as effective and quick as possible. And from my understanding, from what I've learned from you and my general research about FASD, is that having a more particularized treatment protocol is more likely to produce positive results in a quicker amount of time. So I can only imagine that being a positive thing, that my clients would not spend as long in a treatment facility if that was deemed necessary, if they're getting the correct treatment protocol. So I can only imagine that being a positive thing. Obviously the potential for having non-court ordered involvement in these kinds of things makes it more interesting as well, potentially avoiding court altogether, using it as a diversion strategy, having specialty courts that deal with this particular mental illness might be something that should be looked into.
So specialty courts like they have actually in, I think, Washington State and Alaska and Minnesota, they have specialty courts that focus on individuals with FASD. So if they have that diagnosis, they don't go into the mainstream court, they have their own court. Because knowing that, a high percentage of these individuals have problems with adjudication and incarceration, you can say that because there's a high percentage of these clients also in the court system, there may need to be a specialized court for them.
And it's good because they're all specially trained and are all aware of the issue.
Right.
Because I don't think every judge here knows about FASD and
Right.
Yeah, as to not let the kids fall through the cracks of the system.
Right.
And I think that'd be a great idea. We do have a number of specialty courts in Prince George's County already, but none devoted to this particular issue.
So what are some of the specialty courts that are already existing?
Well, we have adult and juvenile drug courts. There's also an adult mental health court. I believe we're launching a veterans court. So you can see that there are courts that are designed specifically to address the needs and problems that are particular to you know, a specific set of people. You know, drug court would tend to be addressing the issues of addiction, and mental health court. Hopefully folks are educated about mental health diagnoses and the proper treatments for specific mental health diagnoses. And in veterans court, probably dealing with the issues of PTSD and you know,
maybe substance abuse too.
Correct
in
as
that
well.
case.
So
Yeah.
so you know, treating these people based on what we know about their past and not sort of just ignoring the specifics of their lives. And I think more effectively helping them. I think that results in people being less likely to be involved with the criminal system again, and hopefully produces more productive, happy people, which would be a good thing.
It would be a good thing. So thanks so much.
Yes, it's my pleasure. I appreciate your time coming in here and educating us about this. I think it's a very important issue. And I thank you guys very much for being here as well.
Thanks so much for your time and your interest in the topic, and I hope that you know, together we can help kids in PG County and, you know, to get the right diagnosis and the treatments for them. So thanks so much for having us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.